So I grew up in Cambodia, but when someone is actually like being very racist or aggressive, I tend to just like joke it out.
There's no more chong.
No more. There is no chong now in Korea.
Yo, Future Adam here with the Lost and Local podcast. I wanted to do a quick tutorial to be able to show you all how to see closed captioning in the language that you prefer. Okay, so let's take a look at my screen recording here. I do have my video up, Adam's Story, episode 3. You're going to see this little button here, the settings. You'll see this on your smartphone, your smart TV, Apple TV, etc. But here on the computer, you'll see it here. You'll go to your settings, and right now, subtitles closed captioning is turned off. We want to select, follow me here. You're going to want to select English auto-generated. You're going to select that. Now, of course, if you want closed captioning in English, that's fine because a lot of people do like to watch things closed captioned. But select this again, and you're going to see auto-translate. Take a look, folks. This is crazy. Look at all the languages you can have your particular podcast or YouTube auto-translated to. So for our purposes, most of our audience here is going to be Korean. We're going to change it to Korean, auto-generated Korean, and then we're going to press play. Let's go over here. Check that out. That is so cool. So if you want to be able to view our videos in the particular closed captioning of your language, there's how you do it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. There you have it. So excited to have shown you all that feature. In the meantime, very excited to segue into episode 4 with our guest, Yeeun. Peace. Welcome, beautiful people, to the Lost and Local podcast. Hey there, we're Adam.
And Hannah.
And Yeeun.
3 Korean citizens who grew up abroad and are now figuring out life in Korea.
Join us as we share stories and our honest perspective on what it means to be lost and local.
We are very excited today because this is our first official guest that we ever had on the Lost and Local podcast. So this is our 4th episode. We're feeling like we're getting a rhythm here, and now we feel very official having a distinguished first guest on the podcast.
Indeed.
So Hannah, why don't you introduce our guest?
Okay. Today's guest is someone who proves that first impressions aren't everything. Yeeun and I met in college, and let's just say I did not leave a good impression. I was in my defense, I was very shy. And so I was like, hey, my name's Hannah. And then Yeeun was like, oh, she's like so unapproachable. She's so cold and distant. I don't really want to be friends with her. But our friendship still grew, and we even became roommates my junior or senior year.
Senior year.
Okay. Now Yeeun is my 선배 in more ways than one. She made the move back to Korea before I did and is getting married soon.
Whoa.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And every time we catch up, it feels like no time has passed, which is either proof of our deep connection or a sign that we're terrible at texting. Either way, I'm so excited to have her on the show today. Welcome, Yeeun.
Welcome.
Thank you for having
Very
me
exciting.
today. Yay.
Well, as the young people say, before we chop it up, let's get into something kind of lighthearted. And I thought, what would be a good question? And we could go with, what is your go-to cafe?
So my go-to cafe is Compost. I actually really like Compost coffee because it's literally everywhere. It's like all around there. And I really like their iced Americano. I prefer coffees that are on the nuttier side than the acidic ones. So I feel like Compost really fits my palate. I like how it tastes, and it's also cheap. It's affordable. That's my go-to cafe.
Wow.
Well, of all the cafes, I mean, Korea is known as a cafe culture, and of all the cafes, Yeeun is she's the guest of the people.
Oh yeah, you're representing the average, very average Korean.
Oh boy.
Well, I'm going to segue into mine since we're kind of related. So I was going to share kind of a fancier cafe, but after Yeeun shared that, I think I'm going to divert to my favorite go-to people's coffee choice. And it's a Mega Coffee. So I'm choosing Mega Coffee, and it's very similar to Compose. They're ubiquitous all around Korea, especially in Seoul.
Yes.
And it's nice. It's 1,500 won, and I drink the hot Americano, not the cold iced Americano. But sadly, I just found out that Mega Coffee is raising due to inflation their coffee prices to 200 won, which is like
Sad
maybe
days.
8 cents USD, but still it's sad.
I know, that's really sad.
How about you, Hannah?
Okay, I represent the non-coffee drinkers.
Oh, wow.
And Korea has so many cafes, and so I haven't been to all of them. Just want to put that out. But I'm kind of basic. I like Osolok, and that's like a Korean brand of green tea.
Green tea.
Green tea. Yeah. But they also have a lot of pastries, which is my favorite more than the drinks. And I can always find something that I'll enjoy. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Isn't Osolok, I'm saying it from the more westernized way, didn't that start in Jeju?
Jeju,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's the island south of Korea. It's like our Hawaii of America. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, I thought it'd be pretty cool to just get to know our guest, Yeeun. So, Hannah, why don't you start with the first question?
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to go back to the basics.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up? Yeah.
So I grew up in Cambodia. My parents are missionaries in Cambodia right now. They first went there in 1993. My mom was pregnant with me at that time, actually.
I was going to say, because you were born in 93.
I was born in 1993.
Yeah. You guys were both born in 93.
Yeah, we're the same
Yeah,
age.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I mean, that's also what like brought us closer.
that's true. Yeah.
Because not only were we both MKs, we were the same age, and not many people at our school were actually born in 93,
No,
right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I feel like we
I
were.
think we were one of the few.
I think it was only the two of us. Actually, everyone else is 94 or 92.
I think my cohort, they were
Yeah.
90.
wow.
Even in my
Yeah,
cohort,
yeah,
everyone was
yeah.
92.
Huh.
So
There we go.
Yeah, there we
Soulmates.
go.
Okay. Missionary mates, too.
Missionaries, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Except we went to a Christian college, so a significant percentage were all MKs.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so that
Almost.
didn't really set you apart.
Yeah,
too much.
everyone was
really.
either a PK or an MK.
Oh,
Yeah.
진짜?
Yeah.
We didn't stand out, and
No.
I actually really liked that. Right?
Me too. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why I grew up in Cambodia. I briefly lived in Singapore for about a year. I think from 2006 to 2007. That's when my parents took a sabbatical. But I actually went to middle school there, I believe, for a year.
Like
But-
an international school?
No, like a public local Christian school. Yeah.
Wait, that's so cool.
Yeah. But most of my childhood growing up was in Cambodia. And then I moved to the States in 2013. And that was the first time that I actually like officially left Cambodia.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, so you went to the States when you were 20 or 19?
20. Yeah, I believe I was turning 20 at the time. I think, yeah, I was 19, turning 20.
Wow.
So I actually took a gap year after graduating high school. So
And did you stay in Cambodia?
I stayed in Cambodia. I worked at a cafe. It's called the Coffee Beans and Tea Leaf.
Oh, shout out to
Coffee Bean.
Beans
It's
and
like
Tea Leaf.
the rival of Starbucks. It used to be. I
Is this
believe.
the coffee bean that's
Yeah.
in Korea and in the States?
Yeah. They were like just opening up a branch in Cambodia, and it was the first branch, I think. But I think I was able to speak English and Cambodian, like Khmer. So
Khmer,
I got hired as an employee.
Wow.
I make coffees, sandwiches.
Wow.
So I worked for about a year, and then I went to the States for college.
I see.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say that's interesting because that's a higher end coffee. So I thought, if anything, you would have a little bit more like particular ways of enjoying coffee. Because coffee bean's a little bit higher level
I see.
than composed coffee.
I see.
I see your
Usually
point.
if you go
yeah.
fancier, it's hard to go down to the more everyday
Yeah,
person's coffee. But wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I really like compost though. Yeah.
Oh, maybe I'll have to give Compose another try.
You should.
You're selling me on
Yeah,
this.
try their iced Americano, not the hot one.
Oh, it could
interesting.
be, yeah, it could be the ice. Wait, okay. I have a question, and
Yeah.
I'm surprised I didn't know this about you.
You did not.
But is Cambodia like? Are there a lot of American influences? Is there a lot of Korean influence? Like, what was it like growing up? Because when I shared my story, I had a unique childhood because it was very Korean influence where I lived in China. So my Korean actually became way better in China than anywhere else.
I see.
How was that for you?
I think Cambodia, when I was growing up in the early 1990s or early 2000, it was heavily influenced by the French, actually. It used to be a colony of France. So a lot of the elderlies, they would speak French, actually. They know how to speak French. They would communicate in French. A lot of the food items, like apple, it's called pomme, which is also the same in French. So like it's heavily influenced by France. Nowadays, because of K-pop and like the K-dramas, now it's influenced by Korean a lot. A lot of the younger generations, they know how to speak Korean.
Oh, wow.
They learn how to speak English, but a lot of them actually come to Korea looking for jobs as well. So that's the situation now. But for me, growing up, there were not that many Koreans at the time.
Wow. So it was probably rare to have an English-speaking international school in this country.
At that time, yes.
Most people were speaking Khmer or French.
Or French, yes.
Did you have to learn either of those languages?
No, surprisingly no. I think it's because I went to an international school, so they had their own curriculum. So French was not required. I think in public schools, they are required to learn some sort of like a class in French or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, but not for me.
Oh, I see. But you do speak Khmer, right?
I do speak Khmer. It's because I had a lot of local friends. And because I grew up there, it was easier to pick up the language. I never learned how to read or write. I just know how to speak it. I used to speak it very fluently. I lost a lot of it now, but I also had a lot of local friends. So,
Wow.
So did you guys have like pho and banh mi and stuff like that?
So we have a different name in Cambodia. We call it Quay Teo. It's very similar to pho. It is similar, yeah. But we have our own name.
I see.
And it's a little bit different. Similar but different.
Okay. But it's they even have like the banh mi type of sandwich too?
Yes, they do.
Oh, okay.
Wow. Did not know this.
Yeah.
Shame on me.
Okay. So yeah, we kind of talked about the fact that you didn't really have a Korean influence like Hannah did, but you can speak Korean too because your parents spoke Korean at home with you.
Yes. So my parents, actually my mom, she's really strict about about someone having to know their native language. And when she realized that I wasn't picking up on the Korean language, especially the Hangul, the characters, she actually sat me down and opened the Bible, and she actually made me
Oh my goodness.
Genesis,
that's hard.
Genesis chapter 1 verse 1. From there, she's like, okay, Yeeun, like look at it, look at the characters, think of it like you're drawing out pictures and just copy it. So I would just like copy out the Bible, the Korean Bible, like 창세기 to like I don't know till when, but like until I picked up Hangul and the language.
And you just picked it up?
I just picked it up. I think I would like to say it's thanks to my mom because she would actually read it to me too. Yeah, as I was writing it out, she would read it to me. So I think that's how I kind of like picked it up.
So you could speak it, you just couldn't.
I couldn't
read
really
and
read
as
and write.
well.
Yeah, I could
Okay.
speak like 1 or 2 words because I usually spoke Cambodian and English, not so much of Korean.
Oh, so if I can like organize this in my mind for myself. So when you would go to school with your friends, you would talk Khmer
I
or
would speak
English,
mostly
like mixing
English.
it. Okay, and then to your teachers, you would talk in English,
Of course.
and then when you came home, you'd probably
I'd
talk in
speak
Korean.
in Cambodian, Khmer.
Khmer,
Because my
okay.
parents, we actually lived like not in our own home or house. It was more like a church, like a mission center.
Oh, okay.
So they were in charge of like they were in charge of this mission center. So we would always have like local people, like Cambodian people come stay with us. Yeah, we would have like students like from the seminary come stay with us. And they were all Cambodian at that time. So we like lived as a community together. So I would always like hang out with them and like I would speak in Khmer with them. So that's why, yeah, I mostly spoke Khmer, the Cambodian language, at home. It was only when I was with my parents, like by ourselves, that I would speak Korean.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So do you have? Oh,
Sorry, you go.
do you have siblings?
I do have one younger sister. She's 12 years older than me.
Oh,
Wait,
younger.
12 years younger?
Yeah. Sorry, no.
I was like, no, she isn't.
Did I say older? I am so
12 years
sorry.
younger.
She's 12 years younger than me. Yes. Yeah.
So you got a taste of motherhood.
She did.
I
In
did.
some ways.
Yes, I did. I liked it. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Change diapers, kind of help raise her since your parents were probably
like,
busy.
Like make the food and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we were roommates, I think Yeeun was the only one who like really knew how to cook on a regular basis. Like the rest of us, we could like maybe cook like one or two signature dishes. But Yeeun was like, oh, like these are the panchans. Like this is like whatever. Like tonight we should eat this. And I was like, wow, how do you know this? And she's like, oh yeah, I raised my sister.
Yeah.
So I was cooking all the time at home.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
It is.
My wife is 9 years older than her brother.
Oh wow.
So she kind of had a similar experience as you. Yeah. So that's relatable from her perspective, I'm sure. Wow, okay, cool. I think that's a good segue into like, since you grew up in Cambodia and you grew up in an English speaking school system, what was your like cultural identity? How did you identify?
So I always identified as a Korean, but that being said, I didn't really know what it meant to be Korean. I just identified myself as a Korean because my parents are Korean. And I actually didn't know what it truly meant to be a Korean until I moved back here 3 years ago. So I never really had that like identity crisis, but I actually never really thought much about it. So when people would ask me like where you're from, I would just say, oh, I'm Korean. I never really had an issue with that. So I didn't really think much about it until I actually moved here, which is quite interesting.
We'll definitely have to dive into
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question before
Sure,
then?
yeah.
So if you're in Cambodia, did you stand out? And is that why you were like, I'm Korean? Or was it because your parents were like, you're Korean, yeah? Like, write the Bible. Like, where did that come from?
I think that's a good question, and I think it's both reasons. I did stand out because my skin is a lighter color compared to Cambodians, and I was a really chubby baby. I was a really chubby baby, and I'm saying this because most Cambodians, they have that like struggle of trying to find food and that. So all of them are usually like very small, like thin and small. But like I, on the other hand, I'm like very white, like light color, like very chubby. So
You're
like,
pale.
yeah, I'm pale.
I
So I would
see.
stand out like wherever I go. And my parents were also like, oh, like we speak Korean. We came from Korea. You are Korean. So like that kind of like stuck with me.
So even though you knew you were different and it really didn't affect you in that way, were you teased for being different than the rest, or was this something that?
Oh, thankfully, no. I was never teased. Yeah, no, I was not.
Wow.
That's good. That's good.
I'm very thankful for that. Yeah,
Okay.
So they accepted you.
they did.
Okay.
They did, yeah.
That's awesome.
And I think it's also because I spoke their language very fluently, so they were more accepting of the fact that I looked different.
Oh, but still, I mean, that says something about that culture.
Cambodian culture.
Because even though a lot of minorities speak English in the States, that's not always the same case.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So while growing up, did you ever visit Korea?
I did.
Okay.
So my parents usually came back to Korea every 2 or 3 years, and I would come with them. But I did not stay for a long time. It was only for like 2 or 3 weeks maximum. And I would come visit my grandparents, my cousins. I'm not really close with them, but yeah.
Sorry, my cousins.
I'm sorry.
Who may be listening, but we didn't grow up with them. So
That's true.
It makes
That's
sense.
true. Yeah.
Like just as you're not as shy at the 3-week mark, it's like we're ready to go home.
Time to go.
We don't see them for a whole year again.
Yeah. But are both of your cousins? I mean, cousins all live here in Korea currently. A lot of them, or
yes.
I have some cousins who studied abroad, but most of my cousins are like born and raised in Korea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You too?
Yeah, all of my cousins are here. Yeah, born and raised here.
All right. And then when you went to Singapore, were you a junior higher or were you in high school?
I think I was in 7th grade. So that's middle school. Yeah.
Okay. And how was your experience there for 1 year?
I don't really remember it clearly, but it wasn't that different from my experience in Cambodia. Yeah.
Wow.
I think I did stand out, like appearance-wise, but they were also very accepting. And they speak English, like Singapore, they speak English, so that wasn't a difficult case for me, but I adjusted well. I made good friends over there, and it was a good experience overall. But like I didn't have that cultural like shock or or any identity crisis there as well. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. I guess the problem is you went to Boston.
Yeah.
You were an extreme minority.
Yes.
How was that for you?
Oh, that was a new experience. That was shocking, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. We were in Boston.
We
were not in Boston.
Not in Boston,
Yeah.
Boston. We were in Wenham.
Northern Massachusetts. It's still considered the greater Boston area, but once you get out of the radius of Boston, it becomes progressively white and homogenous.
Yeah.
And my school, I have a bone to pick with them. They said we were 3 miles away from the ocean. And we were like, great, like I'm gonna go see the ocean every day. They did not explain that we live right next to a highway and you can't walk on the highway or bike on the highway. It's illegal. You have to drive. And like, where would international students have a car?
Exactly.
So I think I saw the ocean like twice. And it's also freezing. 24/7, like 365.
You can't swim in that.
It's never warm.
Yeah.
But it's on the brochure. It's like, we are 3 miles away from this beach.
Yeah, I remember it now.
Yeah. Yeah. That was culture shock for me. It's your interview, but like
go ahead.
that, and they took us to Target right before orientation started because we were international students, and they're like, you don't have a car, like some of you didn't come with your parents, like here, like we'll help you get settled down. I was so shocked by how many different brands of cereal there was. And I was so overwhelmed. I'm like, I just want cereal. Like, what is cereal?
Yeah.
But there's like 30 different brands, and you're just like,
Exactly.
what do you even pick?
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. How was it for you?
For me, that too, like just the size of everything, like the parking space.
I kind of miss those parking spaces.
I
though.
kind of do. In Korea, it's just
It's so tiny.
different. But like, it's just those parking space, the highways, like they're very wide. The supermarkets, like they're huge, like so many options. But I think one culture shock for me specifically is like when I first went to Boston, it was the first time that I got the question, "Oh, are you from North or South?" Like
Korea. Oh.
So when they would ask, like, "Where are you
happens
from?"
today.
Yeah.
It does. That was my first time that I
see.
ever got that question. I never got that question in Cambodia. Never got that question in Singapore. My first time hearing that question, and I remember I was just like, "What?" Like, do you really want me to answer? Like, are we joking or are you serious?
Yeah,
And I was like,
yeah.
I'm from the South, and they're like, "Oh wow, good." I'm like, "Yeah,
Good.
good, okay." Like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
So did you enter together at the same year, or were you 1 year behind Hannah?
I was
then?
1 year behind
Because you took the
Hannah.
gap year?
Yes.
No.
No, yeah.
I think you're 2 years behind.
Oh, because you took a gap year.
I took a gap year.
Yeah, okay.
And then Yeeun came in with an extra year of credits because in Cambodia they went by the British system,
Yeah,
right?
my school went by the British system, so our high school was actually 4 years.
So she graduated year 13.
Yeah.
And came in as a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
And I was gone that first year that she came.
Yeah, so when I first went there, Hannah was not there.
Yeah. And then I came back after my gap year, and that's where I was like so cool and
It's like, hi, I'm Hannah.
hey.
I'm like, oh, hi. Okay.
Oh, that's so cute. You guys are all in your early 20, 19, 20, 20 years old.
I think I was like
Yeah,
just
early
20,
20s,
20, 21, yeah.
That supermarket story, though, I'm just going to interject.
Yeah.
The family that brought me to Christ when I was 16, they had done missions in Indonesia for 20 years.
Oh, yeah? Mm-hmm.
And so she talked about when she came back to the States,
Uh-huh.
it might have been like a furlough. She started crying in the supermarket because she was just so overwhelmed by the choice, but on top of that, just how easy Americans have
plentiful,
it versus like in the islands in Indonesia where people were like struggling, etc. She was just like, oh my gosh, like I forgot how what it feels like to be in America versus being in the mission field. Yeah, and the choices like were just overwhelming for her.
Yeah. There's like fresh produce just lying there, right? And not all countries have that access.
Yes.
But that's also I do want to like make a disclaimer that not all missionaries have that experience.
That's true.
But for us, we did
Yeah.
definitely grow up where that was not the norm. Like I did not grow up with the supermarket.
Oh,
Me
yeah.
neither.
Yeah,
Me
we
neither.
had like a 시장. What's 시장? Like a market,
Local market,
like an
yeah.
Fruit
open
market?
market.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You too?
Yeah, me too.
Did you guys have to ride motorcycles a lot, like little motorbikes?
Did you?
My parents don't know, but yeah.
Oh,
Say it.
we'll have to find out if we're gonna edit this later.
You rode it?
I know how to ride it.
Oh my God.
I rode it. So like I would just tell my parents I'm gonna go out and hang out with my friends, and like because all of them they ride the motorcycles.
Sure.
And when I meet them, they're like, "Oh, Yeeun, do you wanna drive?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
Oh my god.
We would like drive around.
Wow. See,
So, yes.
she looks like she would never break rules. So
Yes.
She's a rule breaker.
Yeah.
I look like I would wreck havoc, but I actually like follow every single rule.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I
You do.
never
Yeah.
rode motorcycles.
Never.
Yeah,
Oh.
I never got a ticket, like a driving ticket, but I got pulled over once because I went past the yellow light
Oh.
and the police officer happened to be there, and I was
Yeah.
like, but it was a yellow light, and he's like, oh, but you gotta be careful.
Okay.
But he gave you a warning?
Yeah,
Kind
he
of
gave me a
ticket?
warning.
warning.
But then
Okay.
when I like shared this to other people, they're like, I run red lights and nobody catches me, and I'm just like,
Oh boy.
it's my luck. This is why I have to be a rule follower. You know?
Oh, okay. Okay, interesting. What made you decide to go from, taking a gap year? Were you determining, should I go to the States, go to Korea, go to Australia? What were you thinking? Like, what was the thought behind that?
So the main reason why I took a gap year was because I was just first reason was because financially, like it was really hard for me to go to college straight after graduating high school. So it was decided as a family that it would be best for me to take a year off, like just just do some tutoring, like work part-time, just wait it out until things stabilized and then go to college. But also because my high school, it was 4 years, and we did a curriculum called the A levels. It's actually really tough. I believe it's more difficult than the IB.
Oh,
I
okay.
want to say,
believe you.
yeah. So it's actually really tough. I had to do a lot of studying, and I think I was so burned out at that time,
I
like just
see.
mentally and physically burned out. So when I sat down and talked with my parents about it, and they're like, "Oh, what if you take a gap year?" And I was like, "Yeah, definitely, I will.
That
I
seems
will."
pretty progressive for Korean parents.
I know.
Yeah.
Because most, they're like, what? No, you can't take a gap
Yeah.
year. You have to
Yeah,
go right
that's
into
true.
it.
Most Korean parents, but I'm thankful that my parents were not like that. They actually suggested taking a gap year first. I think their main reasoning was because of the financial struggle.
So that kind of
but yeah,
nudged them that
that's
way
true.
too.
Yeah.
And they also knew you were like academically driven.
Yes,
And that
yes.
1 year wouldn't
like
ruin anything
that's
for
true.
you.
Yeah.
Oh. But why didn't you go to a British system college?
Oh, I actually did not want to go to Europe or that area
Oh, why?
at all. I think the main reason is scholarship. because my parents were missionaries. They told me that it would be easier for me to get scholarships if I went to college in the States, especially at like a small Christian college, which was true. So then I believed at the time that going to the States was my only option possible, because Korea was not an option for me at all. I never thought about living in Korea. I never knew I was going to come back to Korea at some point in my life.
Now I'm like waiting to find out what brought you back to Korea. We'll talk about it.
Stay tuned.
Okay. Wow. So when you moved to the States, how did that affect your cultural identity? Because it was already pretty like an interesting mix of all these cultures, right? And then now we add this extra layer of how Americans see you. Because for me, when I went, I never thought I had to identify as an Asian American. That was never a thing for me. I was always like, oh, I'm a third culture kid, and that was a good enough answer. But then people were demanding like, oh no, but you're Asian American. And I was like, I've never seen myself that way. But now, because I live in America, that's how people view me. And that's another identity I might have to like accept. Did you feel that pressure or like a rebalancing of your cultural identities?
No, not for me. I never really considered or thought I would consider myself as an Asian American, or people didn't see me that way either. But I think it's also because I had this like this thing inside of me where I was like, I'm Korean. Like I am Korean to the bone, without knowing what it meant. Yeah.
Wait, did you get along with the 유학생들? Like the
I did.
What's 유학생 in
international
like study abroad, like
Koreans,
straight from Korea?
Straight from Korea.
You got along with them?
I got along with them. Yeah.
You mean in your university? Or?
Yeah, in our college.
Also, you had like international students from Korea.
Yeah.
Who were not MKs or PKs,
but you both would be able to speak to them in Korean just fine. Okay.
I got along well with them.
Okay. She got along. I didn't get along. Yeah.
I didn't really have any trouble getting along with them.
I had an issue with the hierarchy. Like, we were the same grade, but just because they were born 6 months before me, they were like, oh, you have to call me 언니. Like, it's a term of, like, respect for someone older than you. And I'd be like, why? And they're like, because I'm an 언니 and we're Korean. And I'm like, but we're in America. And I was rebellious. I was like, none of these reasons are valid to me. So I didn't get along with them, even though I could speak Korean. Yeah.
That's interesting. Because for me, when someone would say, oh, you have to call me 언니, I'll be like, okay, 언니. And when someone said like, oh, you need to speak 존댓말, like to your
honorifics,
to the 선배, to the 언니's and 오빠들's, I'm like, 네.
You just like,
I was just like switched right away. Like that was not an issue for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're like more flexible.
I was flexible. Okay. Yeah.
More accommodating and patient in that way. Okay. Interesting. Because like with Hannah, it can kind of is confusing because I know that you grew up with Koreans in China for a vast majority of your formative years, and then you lived in Korea for 4 years before you went to the States. So wasn't there a lot of that that you had to speak honorifically to people grades above you, but it was just you're like, oh, I'm in America, so I don't have to do that anymore. But you did that in the past, though, right?
But in Korea, it was very defined by grades. So like someone like 2 grades above me, of course I'm gonna use honorifics until they say like you don't have to. But in America, they were like my grade, or they were young in lower grades than I was, but they would insist that I have to use honorifics with them, and I'd be like, oh, I don't agree. Like Koreans in Korea don't even do that. Why are you enforcing this on me? And to just to be very clear, these people weren't even like straight up from Korea. They were like, I shouldn't say the country. They grew up their whole lives in some European country. So they had nothing to do with Korea, and yet they were going to the most I want to say ugliest parts of Korean culture because it's been abused.
Definitely.
Like especially in the army and stuff like that,
Yes.
like honorifics and like the age thing
Yeah.
and like just even being like a week apart, you can like be really mean and like haze people. Like it's been used for very ugly things, and they were insisting that we follow that, and I was like, "You're not Korean, I'm not Korean. Like, why are we doing this?" So I was a rebel.
Interesting. Oh.
Yeah.
That edge in Hannah. She's edgy.
Follows every rule except social rules.
So when you lived in America, did you? I don't. Maybe I'm jumping ahead, but I remember you stated that you just moved to Korea 3 years ago. So before that time, from university on, you resided in the States.
I did.
Oh.
Actually, I moved back to Cambodia for about a year after graduating college, because I wanted to go to grad school, but I could not like stay in the States without
With
without work
permit.
or
Work
without
or
studying,
study.
right? So I had to
Okay.
move back to Cambodia. I prepared for graduate school, and then I moved back in 2017
in Boston again.
to Boston again. Yes.
So during that period of time in the States, I know you stated that you didn't really feel different in Cambodia, and you were able to accommodate the Koreans that came to the universities. But did you feel any racism during the period of time that you were in the States? Did you feel any type of that tension?
I think that's an interesting question because I did not know what racism was at that time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. I actually did not know. And when I would share my experiences later on, like other people would be telling me, that's racism. And I'm like, that is? Like that was? Like, I do not know.
You were like, oh, okay. Let me just answer this question.
Yeah. I was just like, oh, you don't know? Let me tell you. Like, that's how I was. Yeah. And it was until I knew that certain questions were like racist and like certain questions were not appropriate, then I just began to like think more deeply about it.
Okay.
And yeah.
So what's interesting to me is that you had a very strong identity as Korean, but you were also okay with living in America, like long term.
I was.
I think that's really interesting to me because for me, I wanted to live there long term too, but I felt like I had to code switch, like an assimilate.
Oh, really?
And kind of play that role of Asian American in order to be able to stay there long term. But I feel like for you, you're like, I'm going to go to a Korean church because I want to go to a Korean church.
Yeah, I actually went to Korean church.
Yeah.
I had Korean friends.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind being Korean in
Yeah.
America.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
when people would ask me, where are you really from? I'd be like, I'm from Boston. And I would just shut them down. But Yeeun would be like, I'm from Korea. Like, I grew up in Cambodia.
And I think later on, I actually said, oh, I'm from South Korea. So that they wouldn't have to ask.
So when you were in the States, you didn't go to English ministry.
I
You went to
actually did.
Korean
In
college we
college.
did?
Yeah.
But then
It was
after
only
college.
for 3 years, I think. But after college, when I moved back for graduate school, I found a Korean church and
They must have loved you. Because
They
like not
loved me,
not
yeah.
many people your age will go to the KM ministry.
yeah, that's true.
So I'm sure they love to have that younger face and just a younger energy.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you guys had polar opposite viewpoints,
I know.
That's true.
but you both
yeah.
lived in Boston. You were both MKs.
Yes.
Interesting.
And we both worked very mainstream jobs. So Yeeun, you want to tell them what you...
Yeah.
What you
So I studied nursing in graduate school. So I worked as a nurse practitioner.
And then you worked for what hospital?
What hospital? What hospital?
She worked with veterans, like U.S. veterans.
Yeah, I actually did.
Oh, at the VA?
So
Yeah.
it was a clinic that was affiliated with the VA.
Oh, okay.
So I would see like patients, like outpatients.
Yeah.
And
So we worked with like
Yeah.
government,
that's
like
true.
organizations.
Now that I think about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm really excited to hear about the whole why you moved back to Korea, but I have a couple more questions. You kind of let things just you weren't aware of the kind of racist questions that people would bring to you, but it sounds like no one was really like uber aggressive towards you.
That's true.
Did you ever, even though like that didn't happen to you, did you have any, I guess you didn't have any type of aggressive racism towards you at all?
I think it's my personality too. But when someone is actually like being very racist or aggressive, I tend to just like joke it out or like just ignore that situation completely. Yeah. So like when I walk by the streets and someone like does this like eye sign or like say like ching chang chong or things like that, I would like just walk away or just ignore them.
Okay. But I mean, you're able to relate to that. That did happen to you.
It did happen, but I didn't really like, it didn't really have an impact on me. Yeah.
You also wouldn't escalate it, right? Because you just ignore it, whereas someone like me would say something and it would escalate.
Likewise.
It would escalate into something even bigger, whereas you're just like, let me ignore that.
I think it's also because I accepted the fact that I'm Korean. I'm a minority in that country, so like it's natural. I just thought of it as a natural thing. Yeah.
Well,
At the time that you were working after graduate school and you were a nurse practitioner and you were working in the career in the States, were you at the time thinking that you could be in the States indefinitely?
That was what I was hoping for. Yes, I was hoping to get a sponsorship for H-1B and hopefully a green card, hopefully a citizenship in the future. So that was my plan actually, to like settle down in the States, because I loved living there. I loved my career. I could see myself like having a family there. So that's what I really wanted. Yeah, back then.
Okay.
now it's the big question. What happened? What happened to your American dream?
What happened?
Yeah, do say.
Well, I guess the timing was not good, but COVID happened at the time. So actually, like, it was really hard to get a job in 2020, like right after graduating. I was actually one of the first few students from my cohort to get a job because all of my like other classmates were struggling. And I thankfully got a job. And when I first applied, I informed them that I would eventually be needing sponsorship for this and that. So, and they agreed to it. And I actually started working. And when the time actually came to apply for the H-1B, things did not turn out well. I think it was concluded on the clinic's side that it was easier to hire a local NP than to sponsor a international employee. So my visa application like did not even go in. I was told that I had to leave when my OPT, it was OPT, when my OPT expired. So that's how I left.
Oh my
so
goodness,
I left my
that's like
job.
traumatic.
Yeah, it was a traumatic experience, and I tried to stay in the States. So I was looking for ways, like should I go to another graduate school? Like, should I study some more? Like, what should I do? I was looking for this and that, but it was time for my sister to go to college at that time in 2020. So for me to pursue another master's degree would put too much financial struggle on our family as a whole. So it was decided that it would be best for me to actually leave the States because of visa issues and actually find a job somewhere else. So I moved back to Cambodia in August 2021. And I stayed there for about 5 months looking for jobs in Cambodia. But the job market was not really open at that time. There were not that many job opportunities. And it used to be very easy to get a visa in Cambodia as a child growing up, but like there are more restrictions now. So when I couldn't find a job there, I had nowhere to go except to come back to Korea.
Because that was your passport country.
Yes. It was the only country that I could stay without having a job.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So that's how I moved back to Korea. I came here in February 2023.
Wow.
So I'm here. Actually, no, February 2022. Yeah, February 2022. and I've been here since then.
Wow. Have you been able to practice nursing here in Korea?
No, actually, no.
Okay.
I thought about it, but I've heard from many people about how nurses are treated here in Korea. No social respect. The patients don't even respect them. They're not paid well. And for me to practice nursing in Korea, I have to take the national exam in Korean, which I am not comfortable with. Like just the medical expressions in Korean, it's just very like new to me, and I would have to study everything all over again. So working as a nurse in Korea was not an option for me.
Okay, I just want to like go back a little bit.
Yeah.
When you finally make that decision to come to Korea, how did you feel? Because you never imagined yourself in this position, but you also said like you were like, oh, I'm Korean.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this tension. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really did not want to come to Korea because I didn't really know much about this country. I only came here, like growing up, I only came here every 2 or 3 years, and I would stay here for 2 to 3 weeks only. I do speak the language, I know the culture, but I haven't actually lived here. So everything was new to me.
Yeah.
And I think I had this fear in me that, oh my gosh, what if I don't belong? Like, I'm Korean, but what if I don't belong? Because it's okay if I don't belong in the States or in Cambodia.
Yeah.
Because I'm not local, right?
Yeah.
But what if I'm here? I'm Korean, but what if I don't belong? Like, I think that was a fear I had.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that I'm still struggling with. But I think that was the main fear I had when moving back here. Yeah.
Wow.
That's rough.
Goodness.
I feel you.
Yeah, but you feel me. I know.
Wow. Okay. So you've been here for 3 years, since 23.
2020.
Were COVID restrictions still in place? I forgot. In 22, I'm sorry. In 22. I think COVID was still, there was still some restrictions then.
Yes. So I had to quarantine myself, I think 5 times during that move. I actually had to do a quarantine here in Korea because I had to like do a long layover before going to Cambodia when I first moved out of the States. So I had to quarantine here and then in Cambodia. And then when I came back to Korea in 2022, I had to quarantine again. Yeah. And it was tough because I did not have a Korean phone number. Like my katok was still in the
US.
phone number in the US phone number. So like I couldn't order food. Like
oh my God.
I couldn't get like
And
I
you
couldn't
didn't know,
order groceries.
You didn't know enough people to be able to say, "Oh, we'll just order for you, and you can pay us back."
Yeah, that's true. So I was like, wow, like
Yeah. Korea, really, your phone number is everything.
Yeah.
it is.
It's like your identity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your phone number.
Yeah.
When we bought our first house in America, we signed a lot of papers, and we thought, okay. But when you open an account, whether it's a cell phone or a bank account,
In Korea?
you sign as many documents as you do when you buy a house in the
God,
States.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And also in the US, they rarely ask you for your social security number. Like it's only very rare occasions, very important occasions. In Korea, if you sign up for something, you gotta give them
You
your
have
social
to.
security.
Yep, you have
And you're just like, is this safe? But then there's no other way to
That's
like
true.
order something online
That's true.
if they don't have your social security.
yeah.
You're just like, what?
Wow. So now that you've been living here in Korea for the last 3 years, what have you found that is easier now or difficult? Or, I mean, you obviously were missing the whole transition after you moved to Korea, but what are some thoughts on that?
So something that's easier, I don't want to say easier, I want to say more convenient is how people they just complete their tasks. Like they're 빨리빨리
efficient.
code efficient,
Very efficient.
culture. So if you you file a request, then they just get it done by the end of the day. I don't have to wait all day at the DMV.
Or weeks.
Weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything is just so fast. Even like
Yeah.
delivery, everything is just so fast.
The next morning, right?
The next morning,
로켓
yeah.
발송.
Sometimes
like
the same
coupon.
day if you order early enough.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So everything is just so fast and efficient here. So I would like to say that's what I like. Yeah, it's easier, more convenient here.
Wow. Wait, can I like rewind
yeah,
again?
yeah.
So you moved here February of 2022.
2022.
How was the whole like finding a place to live, finding a job? Like how did that process go? And how did you navigate that? Like did someone help you?
Okay. So finding a job was actually easy for me because I was actually introduced to this company that I used to work for by a family friend.
Okay.
So that family friend knew someone from this company, and when that family friend knew that I studied nursing and I was hoping to like find a job that's related to nursing in Korea, they actually recommended that I search more about this like agency that works with a Saudi Arabian hospital where I worked as a nurse educator to teach Korean nurses how to like do nursing in English basically. So that job search journey was not that difficult, I would like to say.
Okay.
Yeah, it felt as if everything was planned out for me after 5 months of doing nothing. But yeah, so that job search was okay. But what was difficult was actually signing the contract. I really didn't know the terminologies. I had to search a dictionary or like use Google Translate and was just like, what is this word? Like, what does this mean? Like, what are the penalties? So I had to that was the most difficult part. Actually, what I struggled most with was finding a house. Because I had to finding a house in America, I feel like was not that difficult for me because I knew the system, I knew what to look for, I knew what questions to ask, I knew how to read the documents. But to do the same thing in Korean, especially like the documents in Korean, like I actually remember I studied all night just studying the terminologies.
Wow.
I searched
Look at you.
Naver.
So studious.
I looked up how to pronounce the expressions
Oh.
등기부등본. Yeah, I
Oh, I
remember
see,
it now.
I
Yeah, so
see.
just those expressions so I
Document
knew
the terms of documents.
Yeah.
I see.
because I didn't want to look as if I did not know anything, right? I wanted to look educated about the system. So I studied those terminologies, those documents.
Yeah.
I looked up so many YouTube videos, tutorials on how to do.
That's good.
I had to do a lot of research about what neighborhoods to avoid or what neighborhoods were good to live in.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that was the hard part.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have anyone to ask help from.
Wow, that's
I mean-
impressive that you did that on your own. Wow.
Yeah.
I know. For a country that prides itself on being safe, there's so many housing scandals and fraud.
Like don't
Definitely.
say.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
you think you're signing with the correct landlord and it turns out there's a different tenant and they're like, why are you living in my house? There's actually a lot of that. Whereas
lot of it,
I think back in Boston, you would rarely hear of a case where someone was scammed.
That's true.
Yeah. Just surprising.
Yeah. Very surprising.
Yeah. So I get the anxiety of
right,
needing
yeah.
to say it correctly so that they don't take advantage of you.
That's true. Yeah.
Wow. Very impressive that you were able to do all that on your
you.
own. That's wow.
Yeah.
Much respect.
Thank you.
Wow. And I had a follow-up question to that because I caught up with Yeeun the summer of 2023.
Oh yeah.
You had been
remember.
here just a little over a year.
We had 양꼬치 together. I remember.
And
I
you were
remember that
visiting
night.
Korea at
I was
the time.
visiting Korea. At the time, I did not know I was going to move
Yeah.
the next year. But yeah. And Yeeun, from the outside, looked completely Korean.
I did.
Her makeup
really?
style, her outfit, everything seemed so Korean. But the minute we were catching up, Yeeun was like, I can't live here. I can't see myself being here in Korea. This is what's hard at work. This is what's hard with church. This is what hard's and she was just telling me how hard it was, even though she had been there for a year and a half maybe. And then when I met up with you last year and I was like, how do I live in Korea? Can I do this? Something had shifted. And you were like, oh yeah, it's not the best in XYZ ways, but here's how I made peace with other areas. So how did that switch? How did you switch from being I can't, and now you're I could see myself being here long term?
I think it was more of I I had to.
Oh, survival.
I had to make that shift in order to belong here, I think, or like feel like I belong. But I think a lot of it is that I just got used to it.
So time,
Yeah.
familiarity.
I think I just needed time to get used to it. Yeah.
So when you've been here in Korea, you didn't go to an English speaking church. You went to a Korean church.
I went to a Korean church. I actually struggled with finding a church. I did not go to church for the first 2 years, I think. It was just last year that I found my church that I'm attending now. I did a lot of church hopping, but it was very interesting because I did go to a Korean church in the States, but it was very different. The Korean churches here in Korea were very Korean. We're too Korean.
Oh wait, can you
Do you
unpack that
get
for
it?
us?
So
We don't know because we haven't been to Korean churches.
because the Korean church that I went to in the States, were most of them were immigrants. So they knew the Korean culture. They were Korean, but they were also a bit more open-minded,
Oh.
if I say that correctly. Yeah. But I feel like the church members here in Korea, they're not that open-minded. I think they have their their minds like very fixed on like certain Korean cultures. And I think what was most difficult was that when I would share like my prayer requests and things like that, or my experiences about growing up in a third world country, like growing up as a TCK, like they would not get it. They would not get it. So it was just hard to like open up to those people or like building a very deep relationship with them. So I think that was the most difficult part. Yeah. So when I say that they were too Korean, I think I mean to say that we don't share the same experiences. So it was hard for me to connect.
I see.
But you found more edification. I suppose is the right word to say, more edification and more identity still in a Korean church under Korean language speaking versus like a third culture church in Korea. So that's, you identified more towards that.
That's true.
Okay.
And I think I just liked the community there because like the 집사님s, the elders, the church elders.
Okay, yeah, elders.
Yeah.
I
They
don't know. 집사님?
장로님?
장로님s,
Oh, one
The-
lower.
like 권사님s or 집사, like
Yeah.
the church adults.
Okay,
like
okay,
they'll
yeah.
be very caring towards international students. And
back in Boston.
back in Boston. So I just really liked that community vibe, like just just caring for one another. Whereas in Korea, like everyone is very individualistic. Like
You agree? There's no more 정.
no more. There is no 정
Yeah.
now in Korea. Like it's non-existent.
We had this conversation because Adam experiences 정.
You do.
Yeah, when he goes to 시장, like people add another thing for him, but I'm like, they charge me full.
They charge me
the
full.
full
Yeah,
price.
yeah.
Well, sometimes like I think it's because I've never experienced it growing up in an American culture, and because I was adopted, I grew up with Caucasian white
I see.
family. So I didn't really have anything to compare it to in terms of relativeness. So when I came to Korea, I did feel a sense of not assimilation, but a sense of like an overarching sense of looking out for each other. And just something that's more, you can't really describe it. Words don't really describe it well, but that's interesting to find out that it makes sense what you're saying with the Korean American culture, where they're the minority and they have to almost look out for each other,
Yeah.
versus Korea where the majority is homogenous.
Yeah.
So it's sad to see that they're becoming more, I guess individualism is more becoming like westernized in a sense.
That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Wow.
Yeah, I remember when I would go over to your house back in the States, you would have tubs of fresh kimchi
Yeah.
from like people from church. Like the
Yes,
older people in church, they would actually make their own kimchi, bring it to you, and you would have like, oh, you want some fresh kimchi? And I'd be like, oh my gosh, where'd you get this? Like you can't even get this at H Mart.
Like homemade kimchi,
Yeah.
not from H Mart.
Yeah, but
Homemade.
now in Korea, that's unheard of.
Wow.
Someone at church wouldn't just give you
No,
kimchi.
no.
Yeah.
Wow. But you still feel You still feel the identity within the Korean church, though. It still feels that's something that's more comfortable to you than going to an English-speaking church in Korea.
In Korea, I can't really say for sure because I've never actually tried going to an English-speaking church in Korea. I think the main reason why I did not do that was because I wanted to belong here. I was trying to find ways to belong to
Like
Korea,
fully integrate.
fully
Yeah.
integrate into Korea. So I thought maybe if I went to an English-speaking church, that would be an obstacle for me.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I was trying to avoid it.
And you speak Korean fluently. You can read the
yeah,
Bible. You
that's
can write the
true.
Bible. So,
That's
so why
true.
not? Yeah.
Why not? Yeah, why not?
So do Koreans, when you speak Korean, your accent, do they assume that you're native? Or
They do assume that I'm native,
okay.
but I think what's telling is that some words I would use it very awkwardly. So my Korean expressions, rarely, but some of them would be quite awkward to hear, and they would have to like ask, like, oh, "What did you actually mean?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, so this is what I meant." And they're like, "Ah, okay."
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Wow. Okay. Thanks for sharing that. That's not an easy journey.
thank
And I guess the next thing I'm curious about, I don't know if Adam's curious, but it's dating like quote unquote cross culturally.
Cross-culturally.
Yeah.
Cross-culturally.
To me, it seems cross
It's
cultural.
interesting. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Oh.
As in dating cross-culturally within Korean? Because Korean is because you're not technically Korean, but you are dating someone that's
Korean.
Korean.
So
Okay.
my boyfriend / fiance was born and raised in Korea. We are actually planning to move to Canada together this fall, and that's gonna be his first time, like actually going to another country, or actually living in another country. So he's like Korean, like pure Korean.
Like took the suneung,
Who took the
went
suneung,
to
went
the
through
army.
went to the army, went through this like education system.
Yeah.
Worked as a nurse in Korea. So he's actually an ER nurse. So cross culturally.
So from my perspective, it
I'm
seems cross cultural, but like, how do you feel?
That's interesting because I think the main reason why I was attracted to my boyfriend is because he's very open-minded. He's very open-minded. So even if we didn't have the same life like experience, he would actually like listen to my stories and he would try to like sympathize with them, or he would actually try to relate with them. He wouldn't judge. He would ask like very pure, like innocent, like questions out of curiosity, like out of pure curiosity.
Like he genuinely wanted to know.
Yeah, he genuinely wants to know. And I think because of that, because of his personality, like dating him, there's not been that many like struggles about like being culturally different or having that difference. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Oh, that's great. I feel like there might be, when you move to Canada,
Yeah.
he's going to see a different side of
That's
you because you're
true.
going to have to think more westernized. And I think he'll be maybe even a little shocked or like taken aback or like, this is a whole different like paradigm of thinking the way I see my future wife or then wife or
That's
whatever.
true. Yeah.
So I think it'll be a little surprising because he's getting like the softened version, like we're still here in
That's
Korea, it's so
true.
comfortable.
Yeah.
But the fact that he's open and progressive in that way, that's awesome because I feel like there's a certain stereotype of Korean men. And so that the fact that he's more open to that is that's good.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I guess for our listeners, they'll probably be curious. It seems like you're pretty much settled in Korea. You could have decided to stay. What made you and your fiance decide to move to Canada?
Want to move to Canada. I think there are many like reasons that I can give. Like there are no nurse practitioner positions here in Korea. So for me to like go back into my career as being an NP, it's better for me to move away.
Like that position doesn't even exist in Korea.
Not in Korea, yeah. So like career could be a reason. Better living situations could be a reason. But I think the main reason, I really thought about it, but the main reason is because I want to find home.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like home away from home. So I have been living in Korea for about 3 years. I have adjusted well, I think, but I still feel like Korea is not my home, and I don't see myself like actually settling down in Korea with a family, like actually raising a child here and like living here long term. But then, do I really want to move back to the States? No, not really. I feel like the States is not my home anymore. So for me to find a new home, career wise and like the living situation wise, I felt like Canada was the best option that I had. And I think it's going to be really interesting for me personally because growing up in Cambodia, I lived under my parents' visa. So I was like a dependent on their visa. In the States, I always held a student visa and an OPT. And in Korea, I'm a citizen here, so no visa. But moving to Canada, I will be going in with a work permit, but I will also, the hospital will also be sponsoring me for a permanent residency, like a green card kind of thing. So it will actually be my first time moving to a country where I'm not like tied to a visa. Like I would actually have the freedom to be unemployed if I want, or to like have the freedom to change jobs if I want, or find a new career. But I don't look like I have to belong there. Same like in the States. Yeah, I can be lost, but it's okay because I look foreign anyway. So just to free myself from that pressure of having to belong and to find a new home, I think I decided to move away from Korea for the next chapter of my life.
Wow.
Yeah. That must have been a hard decision to make, but also exciting to see that you can like really flourish in your career. Because I know, oh my gosh, yeah. Even like in college, you were very passionate about nursing and like working with people, and it's so hard to do that in Korea.
Definitely.
Yeah. I'm sad you're leaving though.
Well, just getting to know you, I'm really happy for you.
Thank
that
you.
you get to be able to utilize the skills that you learned in university, and nurse practitioner is the top of the nurse tier, right? Because you can write prescriptions, and
that's true.
it seems like a really solid career. And because you can navigate English so well, like you'll do fine. It seems like you have no problem being Korean in a different culture, so that's great. Yeah, that's awesome. Good for you. I'm really happy for you. Wow. So when are you going to be in any this year or this?
Hopefully late August or early September. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. And we can take this we can edit this out if you want, but what city are you going to go to?
I'm going to Vancouver.
Yeah. I've been to Vancouver 3 times because I lived in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, yeah.
Vancouver is great. Like Toronto and Vancouver, out of the 2 Canadas, I mean, those are the 2 really cool cities to go to because it's very diverse. Much more diverse than the Pacific Northwest in America, like Seattle and Portland. It's not that diverse, but you go up to Vancouver and you're like, whoa, like this is crazy. Wow. It's so diverse and it's beautiful up there. There's like Victoria Island. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh yeah, I've heard of it.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful up there. Yeah. Wow.
I'm excited.
Awesome.
Nice. I'm excited to see where life takes you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
Since you are planning on living in Canada, and it looks like you'll live, Lord willing, you and your husband will live there a while, and maybe you could, get to retire there. But do you see yourself maybe retiring in Korea later on one day? Do you ever see yourself coming back?
That's a good question. I actually talk about it with my fiance a lot. But yeah, I actually do see myself coming back to Korea later on. Later on, yeah. So after retiring, maybe I could.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's fascinating. We're really excited for you, and you'll truly be third culture all your life, even though you've assimilated so well to Korea. Your experiences are really diverse. Wow.
Wow. Thanks for sharing your story, Yeeun.
Thank you for having me here today.
That was amazing. And we're really, really pleased that our first guest has so much experience and lends a whole different perspective from what it means to be moving to Korea, living in Korea. I'm sure a lot of our listeners would be really interested, those who are dispersed, part of the diaspora and thinking about coming back to Korea. I think they'll appreciate some of your perspective for sure. So that was awesome.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you so much, you all, for staying. If you're here this long into the podcast or the YouTube video, that thank you so much. As you all know, this is not just a video YouTube, but we are also on Apple, Spotify, Pocket Cast, Amazon, and Overcast.
Wow.
So we do have our presence on those other platforms. So if you could do us a solid, give us 5 stars,
5
rate
stars
us.
only.
That's the best way to support the channel. Of course, like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell for future videos. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Yeeun, for coming.
Thank you.
And for the rest of you, we look forward to more episodes, and maybe someday we could do a Zoom. You can zoom in on us when you're in Canada and give us some updates.
That would be lovely.
So we'd love a Zoom in call. But in the meantime, you all, God bless. Peace.
Bye.